Kansas City? I'm your host, Glenn Brian Frizzell. Today we are taping in the historic 18th and Vine Jazz District at the Lincoln Building, home of Cascade Media Group. Some would say that last year was a very good year for black filmgoers. You had film projects such as Fruitvale Station and Best Man Holiday that opened to eager audiences across the country. You had talented actresses, Angela Bassett, Lupita Nyong'o, as well as talented actors Denzel Washington, Idris Elba, and Forest Whitaker, who starred in projects that at the very least elicited hope from fans that more of these projects would come. Was last year a black renaissance for Hollywood? Joining me today to talk about his role in the film community as well as blacks in film is one of the top leading film critics in the country, Mr. Shawn Edwards. Mr. Edwards, how are you doing today?
What's up, my man? It's always a pleasure, man. I can talk movies all day, every day, so let's have fun. Where are we going to start?
Well, tell me about Screening Room. Are we still doing that? What time does it air?
Oh, of course, yeah. We do the Screening Room every Friday on Fox 4 News in Kansas City, Missouri. It's been a long-standing tradition with the station. I actually started there in 2000. Hard to believe it's been 14 years. But we do the Screening Room every Friday. Then on the weekends, we cover all the home entertainment options as well as a package called Chat with the Stars that we do on Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays. So I'm extremely busy working at the station, but I'm just glad that they support entertainment and they support movies because I have been having a ball. It has been a fantastic career talking about movies, discussing movies, dissecting movies. I couldn't think of anything else better to do.
Wow, what time can I catch that sitting in my mom's living room?
If you want to pinpoint a time, on Fridays, the first hit of the Screening Room takes place in the 6 a.m. hour, then we do it again in the 8 a.m. hour, then the 12 p.m. hour, then the 5 p.m. hour, the 9 p.m. hour. We're all over the place. But if you don't want to sit in front of your TV and wait for us to come on live, you can always go to fox4kc.com. We're there 247-365, and you can watch all the old stuff as well.
Have you have you reviewed From the Rough yet?
I have not reviewed that yet because we don't know when that particular movie is going to open in the Kansas City market. So everything stays consistent on when it opens in the Kansas City market. I've seen the movie, but we haven't broken it down yet for the Kansas City audience.
Mr. Edwards, I love black film. I catch a lot of films when they come out on DVD or television. A recent Black Voice study projects that African American spending power will reach $1.1 trillion in 2015. An NAACP study confirms that only 2 cents of every dollar an African American spends in this country, 2 cents of every dollar goes to a black-owned business. Mr. Edwards, are we spending too much time on entertainment and not enough on education and other durable services?
No, I'm not going to say that because there's an educational component to entertainment. I mean, take for instance a movie that came out last year, like 12 Years a Slave. I mean, it is a form of entertainment, but it was also a very educational and powerful film. So at times the two sort of do intersect. I mean, anything you do is always about a balance. So as long as there's a balance in our community between education, business, and entertainment, then I think things work. Now, in terms of our dollars going back to black businesses, that's sort of a catch-22. Because, you know, we live in a time where there are not as many black businesses as there were back in the day. So it does make it a little more difficult to actually spend your money from black to black, but we could be a little more proactive in seeking out the black businesses that do exist and supporting them, you know, a little bit better. Now, when it comes to black film, when it comes to black movies, that's also a catch-22 because, as you mentioned, 2013 was most definitely a banner year for black film. But when you start to peel back the statistics of the audiences that went to go see movies like 12 Years a Slave, Fruitvale Station, Mandela, The Butler, a large percentages of the audiences were actually not black. So we still have a hard time supporting black film, although there's always an outcry that we want to see more stories about our culture and heritage. But when they pop up and they're available for you to check out, we don't always support en masse.
Wow, wow. Tell us a little bit about iloveblackfilm.com and what
iloveblackmovies.com.
iloveblackmovies.com.
Yeah. Because if you go to iloveblackfilm.com, you're not going to get there. But iloveblackmovies.com was actually a project that I started back in 2008. It was born from an extension of a project that we created at Fox 4 News because we were looking for a community event that we could target African American audiences for. And we came up with this idea to do this event that we did in the historic 18th and Vine District called a Celebration of Black Film, where I created a list of the 100 best black movies of all time and then created a documentary about the list. And we actually showed that documentary at the Gym Theater, invited people to come out to watch the documentary on Fox 4 News. We got such a tremendous response response.
I
That
remember
people,
that.
yeah, people wanted more. So I figured the best way to get people more was to create a website that could exist every day, that they could go to and check out black films that were made back in the day, and get a glimpse of some black films that are going to be opening in the future, and also check out what was available to them now. So the website was born from that. It's been really successful. The website's hot. Facebook page is on fire. We have Twitter. We do a lot of fun things on there. We give away a lot of movie passes. We give away a lot of DVDs. We keep people updated on all the black releases, whether it's theatrical, home entertainment. We let people know what the black stars are going to be doing next, like what's Jamie Foxx's next project, what's Denzel's next project. So we got a tremendous response from that, and we're about to launch a clothing line on June 1st, 2014. Really excited about that. I created 6 designs inspired by my love of black movies that are going to be available for the public to buy in conjunction with a company called Charlie Hustle Shop. So they'll be online, available for the general public to buy. So we're going full circle. It's like an online community of people who love black movies and respect the black movie culture.
What's that, t-shirts and hats?
Right now, just t-shirts, but I mean, the designs are real high. I've spent a lot of time and, coming up with the designs and the concept, and my man Chase, who owns Charlie Hustle Shop, sort of fine-tuned everything, and we're going to use his business model to get the shirts out there, but it's all in conjunction with iloveblackmovies.com. So we're just trying to do some fun things and sort of unite the online community of people who are into this.
Sounds interesting.
It's fun. It's fun. It's keeping me on my toes. I watch so many movies throughout the year that sometimes, a lot of people, for them, their escape is to go to the movies, but because I do it professionally, my escape is to do other things.
Now tell me about the other project that you were talking about when we came in here.
Oh yeah, I also work for a company called Black Tree Media out in Los Angeles, California, and it started off as a YouTube channel, actually the #1 YouTube channel for urban entertainment, and we are branching off into traditional television. We actually have a 30-minute entertainment show we're producing for the Soul of the South Network, and we're also currently negotiating a deal where we bring iloveblackmovies.com to life with a show called I Love Black Movies TV, which is sure to be the extension of the website brought to life, sort of like Access Hollywood Entertainment Tonight Extra, but the focus will be on black movies and black talent told from a black perspective that appeals to a black audience.
Wow, man, you sound real busy. Tell us what.
I got to stay, man. You know what? I have to stay busy because there are 2 things in life that I love doing. I love going to the grocery store and filling up the cart.
Yeah.
And I love going out and partying, and both of those things are really expensive.
Yeah, so you have to stay busy.
I got to eat and I got to have some fun.
How often do you fly out to Hollywood? And what is a Hollywood party like since we're going there?
Well, my schedule is pretty intense. I actually I rotate back and forth between Kansas City and Los Angeles. I technically go to Los Angeles once a week. Generally, I'm out in Los Angeles 3 to 4 days, in Kansas City 3 to 4 days, depending on the rotation. Sometimes in New York. I got a stretch where I'll go to New York for the next 3 weeks to cover film, and then in between there, I'll hit France and England, because there are a couple of things going on internationally, but my travel schedule's insane. I actually tell everybody when they ask me where do I live, I'm like, I live on a plane, literally. I am literally George Clooney from Up in the Air. Like, I always have a suitcase packed, and like, if my phone were to ring right now and they said we need you on a plane, I literally have a suitcase packed and ready to go in the trunk of my car.
That's
I have another suitcase packed and ready to go at my house. Like, I am ready to go at a moment's notice at any time because I've been crisscrossing the country now for more than 10 years.
You've interviewed a lot of actors and actresses since you started. Which interviews stand out the most?
Oh, wow, that's really hard. But if I have to pinpoint an interview that stands out the most, probably the very first time I interviewed Eddie Murphy, because as a child, he was such an iconic figure. And when I finally got to sit down across from him, in the back of my mind was like, oh, that's Eddie Murphy. Because like when I was growing up, you got to remember, that's when Eddie Murphy was on SNL. And then Eddie Murphy broke out in 48 Hours, and he did Trading Places. Then he did, Beverly Hills Cop 1, 2, and 3. And then he did the Nutty Professor movies. He was huge. He did so many great movies. Like, he was remember back in the day, Eddie Murphy held it down because he was the only Negro on the big screen. Like, there was no one else. Like, for a little bit of my childhood, you got a little bit of Richard Pryor. And then he had that dry spell. And I'm talking about back in the day, the dry spells were dry spells. Like, it would been like
Superman, Brewster's Millions.
I think that, yeah, those definitely count. I mean, because people forget, man, Richard Pryor was a huge star. Richard Pryor was doing it big. Because remember, Richard Pryor could do both comedies, and people forget he could do the dramatic stuff just as well. The dude was like flat out brilliant. But yeah, I caught the tail end of his career in terms of me really, really, truly remembering as a child. But Eddie Murphy was in my wheelhouse. Like, he's in my wheelhouse all the way. I mean, Eddie Murphy was that dude. So like the very first time I got to interview Eddie Murphy, I was like, yes, that's that dude. So yeah, I got really excited about that. That's the one that kind of sticks out. And then anytime I interview Will Smith, because dude is just so amazing and incredible. Like, he's like one of the most genuine, fun people you could ever meet, and he handles his business.
Do you keep in touch with your Morehouse classmates?
Wow, that's tricky. The ones that I was super close to that I actually went through the School of Communications with, I do. Like, I've been to a couple of my buddies' weddings, and because of Facebook and Twitter now, it's a lot easier than it was 10 years ago. So yeah, I try to shoot down to the ATL on occasions, not as much as I would like to, but yeah, keeping up with college and high school buddies is really difficult. I'm like mad busy, they're mad busy. You know how Morehouse dudes are. Everybody's got something major going on. So when we have a chance to catch up, we do. But my real cool buddies, you know, the dudes that I went to spring break with and went to Freaknik with, yeah, we still keep in, man, we still keep in touch together. Because you always want to swap those Freaknik stories.
Tell us about Freaknik.
Nah, I can't. You can't. That's the sad thing about Freaknik. There is no story that can be told on camera.
No story that can be told.
There is no story that can be told on camera about Freaknik, although I am dying for them to make the Freaknik movie.
Wow.
I would love to see the Freaknik movie would be awesome. I don't know if you could really recreate it. It'd be fun to see, but there's no real life story about Freaknik that can be told on camera.
Mr. Edwards, with the advent of digital medium, a faster, cheaper method of shooting and producing, how has editing and producing movies changed? Will 35mm film soon be obsolete?
35mm film is already obsolete, and it's changed for the better because now anyone who had a dream of being a filmmaker has a better chance of making that happen. Technology has definitely changed the game, and it's definitely for the better for black film because the playing field is not all the way even, but it's getting closer due to the accessibility of affordable technology. Because back when everything was shot on 35mm film, it was hard to get in the game. You can get in the game now. It's still expensive, but you can get in the game thanks to technology.
Now, Mr. Edwards, when I was a third grader in Miss Philka's St. Therese Little Flower class, a new library opened in Kansas City. I remember going to this library one day, the 700 section, and there was this red encyclopedia, Blacks in American Film and Television by Donald Bogle.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that?
I know Donald personally, so yeah, I know the book as well.
Well, he was an African-American scholar at the time. That was the only book. Later, we had Dr. Snakeskin and James Parrish.
Right.
But that summer, 1989, I made it a point to see as many black films as I could, especially the ones from the 1970s, starting with Sweetback and Coolie Hot.
All right.
My mom wore out her Blockbuster card, renting all the movies.
Back in the day, we could actually walk in the store and grab them off the shelf.
Renting all the movies, the parts that she forgot, you
right.
know, that I probably shouldn't have been watching.
No. I'm an advocate. When it comes to black film, forget about ratings. Just digest them all. It doesn't even matter about the content. Watch them all, no matter what age.
Watch them all.
It's a history lesson. Watch them all.
The only thing is, at that time, the only film critics that we had, of course, were Donald Bogle.
Yeah.
You had Roger Ebert, Gene Siskel, and you had Rated K on Nickelodeon.
Right.
How has the film critic business evolved since the 1980s to where you can comfortably do what you do today? Is it still a challenge?
Well, I'll be completely honest. There's a completely different challenge. Well, it went from like there were hardly any film critics that were visible or had a media outlet to now there are too many media outlets and too many critics. Nowadays, everybody is a critic and everybody has the tools to be a critic. I mean, you got Twitter, you got Facebook, you got an infinite number of websites online. Everybody wants their say. Everybody thinks their perspective is fresh. So the term professional film critic has actually become tremendously diluted. And it's just not the same as it was back in the day because there's not that one big, credible, authoritative voice that used to hang out there like Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel, or Gene Shalit back in the day, or, all these guys that were doing it big that had massive exposure because they had tremendous media outlets like the Today Show or the asset of, syndication like at the movies. So it just, it went from that to like now there are literally 10,000 people who claim to be film critics now. So it's tough. But I mean, that's why we're so fortunate to have a credible outlet in which we can express our viewpoints and opinions on Fox 4 News in Kansas City, because not a lot of stations do that. Like, actually very few stations do that. So, you know, the term professional film critic right now is really up and out there in the air, and it sort of needs to be redefined and brought back in so that we can have some sort of sense of what that actually means. And you know, you can go online and people argue back and forth who's credible, who's not credible, who's good, who's not good. So we don't know. We'll see where the future goes, because with this explosion of social media, the sky is the limit. And, you know, everyone's opinion is to be respected. I mean, that was why this form of communication was created. There's just not one big voice out there that stands as the critic like back in the day.
Wow, wow. We're going to talk a little bit more about your role as a film critic. I'm going to have to break this up into two pieces.
That's cool.
So if you have...
so this is part one.
This is part one.
All right,
so
like
if
it.
you
The
have...
sequel's coming.
If you have popcorn or you need a soda break, now would be the time to do that. I'm Glenn Brian Frizzell. Check out more video on www.whatsupkansascity.net. And remember, the sky is the limit. If you aim high, shoot for the moon,
you
you miss.
you want to do.
You can do anything you want to do. At the very least, you would have landed among the stars. Take care. Until next time.